It was the most cold-blooded, cowardly treachery I've ever heard tell of on this coast. And I'm a California 49er. That's a quote from the Justice of the Peace of Nez Perce County, back when Idaho was still a territory. J.K. Vincent had been hired to investigate a mass murder, a massacre of Chinese miners along the Snake River. He described how more than 36 Chinese men were shot, cut up, and then thrown into the river. Imagine 31 to 34 people being killed, estimates are still ranging in that area, with nobody held accountable for it, despite confessions and depositions. That's exactly what happened on this day 138 years ago. It's not the most uplifting story we could share during Asian Pacific American Heritage Month, I know, but the Hells Canyon Massacre remains one of the deadliest and bloodiest attacks and anti-Chinese violence in the history of our country. At first, they were welcomed. A mid-century labor shortage to build the Transcontinental Railroad and mine for gold meant Chinese immigrants easily found a place in the American West. They worked harder for less, and they didn't want to unionize. That's why the script flipped, and Chinese workers were to blame for white men without jobs. That reversal in sentiments led to America's first significant restriction on immigration, with the Chinese Exclusion Act of 1882, stopping immigration from China for 10 years. States like California and Oregon even banned them from owning land or mining. Which is why, by 1887, Chinese miners already in the West went looking for low-profile places to find gold. A group of them working for the Sam Yep Company found one, south of Lewiston, along the Oregon side of the Snake River, in what would become known as Hells Canyon.
So the Chinese had been mining there at this site called Deep Creek for, probably about 4 or 5 months. And there were a band of white horse thieves operating in northeastern Oregon in what is now Wallowa County.
That band of 7 horse thieves allegedly found the Chinese miners and ambushed them on May 27, 1887. Over 2 days, every member of the Chinese mining party was shot by a rifle, mutilated, and dumped into the river. Within weeks, those bodies were being seen daily downriver in Lewiston. Nobody knew the number at the time, but rumors pinned the atrocities on Native Americans, who apparently made off with more than $3,000 in gold dust. Or it was other Chinese, or whites. The American miner kicks hard at the Chinese miner was an understatement. An investigation found it to be true, however. It was a crime committed by white men and confirmed nearly a year later when one of those horse thieves confessed. Frank Vaughn agreed to testify against the other 6 men, Bruce Evans, Hiram Maynard, Ezekiel Hughes, J.T. Canfield, Max Homer LaRue, and 15-year-old Robert McMillan. 3 of them managed to escape, and the 3 remaining were found not guilty by a jury in nearby Enterprise, Oregon.
Well, why did they have to kill them? Because they could easily have just taken the gold from the Chinese and let them go. And who would the Chinese have complained to? Who cared? No one. But the fact that they killed him, it was just clearly a savage act of racial hatred.
Said a local rancher who watched the 2-day trial, "I guess if they had killed 31 white men, something would have been done about it." But none of the jury knew the Chinamen or cared much about it. So they turned the men loose. Of course, the testimony of Frank Vaughn changed during the trial as he tried to blame the killings on the 3 men who had gotten away. He also claimed they were only trying to borrow a boat to bring stolen horses to Idaho to sell. And that quote by rancher George Craig about the acquittal being about race was written in a journal shortly after the trial and included in a book by Greg Notes, who you just heard from. He wrote Massacred for Gold, the Chinese in Hells Canyon, back in 2009. After the trial, the crime and the killing of 34 Chinese miners went all but forgotten for more than a century. Then in 1995, a Wallowa County clerk found a packet of missing court documents all about that trial hidden in an old safe at the courthouse. They detailed those documents did, the indictments, the depositions, and the escape of the gang's leader from jail. Because of Noak's work, by the way, the Hells Canyon site has been designated as Chinese Massacre Cove. So if you're in that area, you can find it. And a memorial has been placed there, and you can see it there. It has been written in 3 different languages.